Uh, the Ammonite and Moabite are prohibited from marrying into the congregation, and the prohibition is perpetual. However, the women are permitted immediately. The Egyptian and the Edomite are prohibited from marrying into the congregation only until 3 generations. Both males and females, Reb Shimon permits the females immediately. Reb Shimon says this matter is subject to a fortiori reasoning. If in the case where the males were prohibited perpetually, the females were permitted immediately, then how much more so in the case where the males were prohibited only until 3 generations, that the females should be permitted immediately? They applied to him, this is a precept handed down that we will accept, but it is the ruling, there's a rebuttal to it, and it said to them, not so, what I say is a precept. Mazarim and Nisanites are prohibited from marrying into the congregation, and the prohibition is perpetual, both male and female. Okay. Rabbi Shua and I have heard that the Saras performs Chalitza and the Chalitza is performed with his wife. And I have also heard that the Saras does not perform Chalitza and the Chalitza is not performed with his wife. I cannot explain it. And Akiva said, I will explain it. The person who rendered a Saras by act of man performs Chalitza and Chalitza is performed with his wife because he has proof of suitability. And genital Saras does not perform Chalitza and Chalitza is not performed with his wife. Because he has no period of suitability, Rabbi Eliezer says, not so. Rather, the congenital Cyrus performs Kalitza, and Kalitza is performed with his wife, since he may be cured. The person rendered a Cyrus by act of man does not perform Kalitza, and Kalitza is not performed with his wife, since he cannot be cured. The Yeshua ben Sarah testified about Ben Megusis, who lived in Jerusalem, who was a person rendered a Cyrus by act of man. And Yibam was performed with his wife, supporting Rabbi Akiva's statement. Okay. Um, Sasaris does not perform Kalitza or Yibum. Similarly, the Alonis does not perform Kalitza, nor may she be taken in Yibum. Yibum. The Saris has performed Kalitza with the Jajama, did not prohibit her. If he cohabitated with her, he prohibited her because it was an illicit cohabitation. Similarly, with an Alonis. If the brothers performed Kalitza with her and they did not prohibit her, but they cohabited with her, they prohibit her because cohabitation with her is illicit. Okay.
Okay. Saris Chama. Saris Chama Kohen. There's a Kohen who was born congenitally unable to have children. Shenasa Bas Yisrael, and he married Bas Yisrael. Um, okay. Now this is actually okay, I think. I don't remember we were seeing any reason that a Saris is not a Saris that a Saris Chama is not allowed to marry. A Saris Adam who's if he's a Patur Daka, we saw Patur Daka and the Khrushchevka not allowed to marry. But yeah, we have a regular Kohen who was just born infertile, and he is allowed to marry because he since he cannot have children, he has no mitzvah to have children, and women don't have a mitzvah at all. Is the halacha that we said that the
Right.
pure bull is a mitzvah on the men. So okay, so he's married. So he's married to a Bas Yisrael. Machila b'truma. It's a legitimate marriage. So she's allowed to eat truma. Rabbi Yossi v'Rabbi Shimon omrim androgynous kohen. Now, what happens if you have um, a an androgynous kohen? He was born to a kohen, and he's hermaphrodite. He's got both characteristics. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer, sorry, I skipped a line there. Androgynous Kohen Shenasa Bas Yisrael. So if he married a daughter of Israel, now this we said that we'll see in the halacha that just a little bit below that a hermaphrodite is treated like a male in most respects. Now that he's going to have troubles with Yerusha because his brothers will push him away from the inheritance. But nonetheless, his halachas follow those of a male for the most part. That he's allowed to marry a woman, but not a man. Okay, and so if he marries the woman, ma'achila b'truma, then she also becomes entitled to truma, which is even more interesting because that means that on a daraisa level, we're even considering him to be a male, that he entitles a Bas Yisrael to eat truma. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, tumtum shenikra v'nimtza zachar. What happens if you have a tumtum? Now, the tumtum is the reverse case, somebody who has the sort of indeterminate characteristics. And I think that this is actually a real thing. That there's actually a lot of the cases that we have nowadays of women who of men who identify as women. For example, there's a very famous athlete called Caster Semenya, South African, who grew up as a girl, and there was a whole big controversy when she went into the change rooms, and the women around her looked and said, "Ah!" And like she was going and winning all these races, and people were saying this is not right. This is not a man. This is not a woman. This is a man who's coming and competing in the women's races. This is one of the first cases that started this whole men and
It's
women
all
sports story. But apparently, what happened was that when she was born, his genitals were not properly formed, so they assumed that she was a girl, and then later her genitals were revealed, but by this stage she was already like hanging out with girls, and that was her thing, was that she was a girl. So this could be the case of the Tumtum Shenikra v'Nimtza Zachar, where it turns out that she's actually a male. Lo Yachlotz, who does not must not do chalitza for his brother's widow, mipnei shehu kasaris, because that kind of person is probably going to be infertile and therefore incapable of carrying out a chalitza or a yibum, and therefore is out of the parsha of chalitza.
Was that the first case that started the case that you told me about just now? Was that the first case?
I don't think it started it, but it was, I think, one of the first cases that came to prominence.
Oh.
And I think there's also that Algerian boxer who like won the gold medal in the Olympics. Well, yeah, which everyone is looking at this person saying, that is a man. That is a man over there who's busy beating up all these women. It's like,
And that but now it led to all the stuff in the schools. What's going on in the schools?
yeah.
Mm.
Mm. But fortunately, under different administration, it's becoming less popular.
I told you, I think I told the story fast that when in 1970, when we went to Europe, we spent the whole 2.5 months in Europe and went around. And I went to we were in this restaurant, and it was a French restaurant. I walked inside, and there were men and women, in the bathrooms. I mean, they had stalls, but there were men and women there. And I tried to act like nonchalant, nonchalant. I just just walked around. Oh, okay, all right, nothing new. I came back and told my wife. She said, "You're kidding." I said, "No, I'm not." You know,
I mean,
it was
but the stall. So basically, they had a shared washing area, and then you locked yourself
right,
in the
right,
stall.
right. So since it was my first encounter, like I said, what am I
I
doing? Am I
mean,
in the wrong place?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Because 1970, it took a long time ago.
Yeah, I think that's.
It's
I mean, if you think about it, that nobody's actually in a state of undress in that washing area, but but yeah, that's not what we're used to.
right.
Anyway, androgynous. So here's the halacha we see: androgynous no velo avalot nisa. So the hermaphrodite may take a wife, but he may not be married as a wife. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer Omer androgynous chayvim alav skila kazachar. And furthermore, says Rabbi Eliezer, if a man has relations with an androgynous, they're both chayv skila. Um, and I think the Gemara explains that this is dafka when these two people have relations the way men have relations with men. Not okay. Right, Perik Tes. Yesh mutaros lebalehen v'asuros liyivmehen. We have cases where a woman is mutar to her husband but asur to her yavam. Mutar to her yavam, asur to her husband. Mutar la'elu, and there are those where they're permitted to both. Asoros la'elu, and cases where she's asked to both. So the cases where she's mutar to both and the cases where she's asked to both are going to be pretty easy. But the interesting ones are where they're mutar to one and asked to the other. Elu mutaros lebaleihen v'asoros leivmeihen. So one who is mutar to her husband but asked to the yavam. Kohen hediot shenase salmana. Okay, a regular Kohen who married an almana, and actually, we just say who married an almana because it's because of the concord of the sentence. Because honestly, even if a regular Kohen married a basula and then died, and he's v'yesh lo ach Kohen gadol, the fact is, as soon as he dies, she's a widow. which means that the Kohen Gadol, she's Asa to the Kohen Gadol. So she's mutter to her husband and Asa to the Yavam. What about a Chalal, Shenasa Kashera, a Kohen who was born to a divorcee? So his mother, his father was a Kohen, his mother's a divorcee. So he's a Chalal. Shenasa Kashera, he married a Kashera, a regular woman, and he's allowed to remain married to her. V'yesh lo ach kasher, and he's got a brother who is a Kohen, right? Obviously from a different mother. Um, okay, so now this Halal dies, uh, and he's and now his wife has lived with a Halal, which makes her Asa to a Kohen. Okay. Also, Yisrael, Shenasa Bas Yisrael, a regular Yisrael who married another Bas Yisrael, V'yesh lo ach mamzer. His brother's a mamzer. Okay. So he's not allowed to marry her because she's a kashera. Okay, what about the other case? Mamzer shenasta mamzeris. So the mamzer and the mamzeris are married to each other, and that's 100% fine. And the mamzer dies. Yesh ach Yisrael, and he's got a brother who's just a regular Yisrael. He's asked to marry her. Okay, mutaris lebalehen va'asuris liyivmehen. In all these cases, they're mutar to be with their husbands, but asur to their yavam. And now the converse case, elu mutaris liyivmehen va'asuris lebalehen. Yeah. Kohen Gadol Shekidesh Isa Almana. Now, what happens if a Kohen Gadol um, did Kiddushin? He did not live with her because if he lived with her, then there's a problem. Okay, but he did Kiddushin on an Almana. He's not allowed to marry her. And then V'yesh Ach Kohen Hediot, but his brother is just a regular Kohen. So if the Kohen Gadol dies now, his brother, the Kohen Hediot, is allowed to do Yibum with her because a regular Kohen is allowed to marry a widow. Kasher Shenasa Halala, a regular Kohen who married a Halala, and he's not allowed to do that. Okay? Yesh ach Halal, but he's got a brother who's a Halal, and he's allowed to be married to her, so he could do Yibum. Yisrael Shenasa Mamzeris, a Jew who was married to a Mamzeris. Yesh ach Mamzer, and his brother is a Mamzer. Okay, so his brother will be allowed to marry her as by Yibum. Mamzer shenasa bas Yisrael v'yesh ach Yisrael, or mamzer who was married to a regular woman, and he has a brother who is kosher. Mutaris liyivmehen v'asaris lebalehen. In all these cases, they're not allowed to be with their husbands, but if their husbands died, then they're allowed to do yibum with the brother. Asuris le'elu le'elu. Yeah, obviously, cases where they're asur to both of them. Kohen gadol shenasa es almana. If the Kohen gadol was living with a woman who was an almana, so now not only is she asur to him, but by living with him, she has become pasul lekohen legamre. Okay, v'yesh le'ach v'yesh le'ach Kohen Gadol or Kohen Hediot. And it doesn't matter if his brother who succeeds him is immediately appointed Kohen Gadol or if his brother is just a regular Kohen. Kasher Shenasa Halala, a regular Kohen who married a Halala, v'yesh le'ach kasher, and his brother's also a Kohen. Okay, well that stands to reason. Yisrael Shenasa Mamzeres v'yesh le'ach Yisrael, a Jew who's married to a Mamzeres, and his brother is also a regular Yisrael. Mamzer Shenasa Bas Yisrael v'yesh le'ach Mamzer, or a Mamzer who's married to a regular woman, and his brother is also a Mamzer. Asuris le'elu v'le'elu. He is all of them are prohibited. And the default case is that the woman is mutar to her husband and to her yavam. Okay. Daled Yud Gimel.
Okay. Okay. One who is a mamzer, the child of any blood relation with whom cohabitation is prohibited by a negative commandment. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Shimon ben Timni says, the child of anyone whom the punishment is carried at the hands of heaven, and that halakha follows his view. Rabbi Shua says, the child of anyone for whom the punishment is death at the hands of the court. Rabbi Shimon ben Azai said, I found a genealogical scroll in Yerushalayim in which was written, so and so is a mamzer from a married woman, supporting Rabbi Shua's words. The one whose wife is permitted to marry her sister, if he divorced her and she died, he is permitted to marry her sister. If she married someone else and she died, he is permitted to marry her sister. If his Yevama died, he is permitted to marry her sister. He could perform chalitza with her and she died, he is permitted to marry her sister. Okay. Oh, Rabbi Gamil says there is no validity to the bill of divorce after bill of divorce, nor to a mamzer after mamar after a mamar, or to cohabitation after cohabitation, or to kalitza after kalitza. The sages say, however, there is validity to a bill of divorce after a bill of divorce, and to mamar after mamar, and after cohabitation and after kalitza, there is nothing. How so? If he performed mama with his Yevama and then gave her a bill of divorce, she requires chalitza from him. If he performed mama with her and then chalitza, she requires a bill of divorce from him. If he performed mama and then cohabitated with her, he has done it properly.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Megillah. Okay. Dalet Hey. The one who concludes
Dalit.
One who reads the Torah may not read fewer than 3 verses. He may not read more than 1 verse at a time. For the translator in the section for the uh, prophets he may not read more than 3 verses at a time. If 3 verses are 3 paragraphs, they read them one by one. One is permitted to skip in the reading of the prophets, but one may not skip in the reading of the Torah. How much was one permitted to skip? No more than what would cause the translator to pause. The one who concludes with the section from the prophets is the one who divides the Shema. And one who goes before the ark and lifts his hands to bless the people. He is a minor, his father is a teacher, and go before the ark on his behalf. A minor may read the Torah or serve as a translator, however, he may not divide the Shema, nor may he go before the ark, nor may he lift his hands to bless the people. One whose clothes are tattered may divide the Shema and serve as a translator. However, he may not read the Torah, nor may he go before the ark, nor may he lift his hands. A blind man may divide the Shema and serve as a translator. Rabbi Yehuda says anyone who has never seen the luminaries may not divide the Shema. Okay.
Dalim.
And this is Dalet Gimel. And where did they prostrate themselves from 13 times? 4 in the north, 4 in the south, 4 in the east, 3 in the east, and 2 in the west, opposite the 13 gates. The southern gates adjacent to the west, the upper gate, the kindling gate, the firstlings gate, the water gate. And why was it called the water gate? Because through it they would bring the flagon of water for the libation on Sukkot. Reb Eliezer Yaakov says it is the water, through it the water trickles and are destined to issue forth from beneath the threshold of the temple. Opposite the south gates on the north, adjacent to the west, Yekana's gate, the offering gate, the women's gate, the music gate. And why was it called Yekana's gate? Because it was through a king Yekanani went to his exile. In the east, Nicanor's gates, which had 2 wickets, one to its right and one to the left, and 2 gates in the west, which were unnamed. 13 tables were in the temple, 8 of the marble in the slaughter area upon which they would rinse the entrails. Regarding sacrifice objects, we ascend but do not descend, and one of gold on the inside of the temple on which the pot and bread lay continually. 13 collection chests were in the temple upon which were inscribed respectively new scullum and old scullum, nests and young pigeon bird offerings, wood and frankincense. First in the gold for the utensils, the remaining 6 were used for various donative offerings. New scullum was for the scullum of each year, and old scullum was for the one who did not pay his half shekel last year and pays this year. Sacrifice the turtle doves and young pigeon offerings refers to young pigeons, and all are burnt offerings. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, but the other sages say nest was used by one required to bring 2 birds, one a sin offering and one a burnt offering, but young pigeon burnt offering for burnt offerings only. One who says I obligate myself to offer wood may not bring less than 2 lots.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. Beis Shammai says one may not sell him a plow and cow on the 7th year, but Beis Hillel permits because he can slaughter it. One may sell him produce even at slowing time, but he may lend him his saw measure with the measure to which he knows that he has a threshing floor, and they may change money for him, though he knows he has workers, but expressly all are forbidden. A woman may lend her neighbor who is suspect in regard to the 7th year, a sister, a sieve, a hammer, or another, but she may not sift or grind with her. The right of a chaver may lend to the wife of the Amaretz a sifter, a sieve, and she may sift, grind, or refine with her. But once she has poured water, she may not touch it, with her, or for one may not add transgresses. And all these things were said solely for the sake of peace. And one may encourage non-Jews in the 7th year, but not Jews, and one may greet them for the sake of peace. There are 3 territories in regard to the 7th year, all that which the descendants from Babylon occupied Eretz Israel, as far as Kezev, and they may not be eaten or cultivated, and all that descendants from Egypt occupied from Kezev, as far as the river until Amana may be eaten but not cultivated. From the river and Amana inward, it may be eaten and cultivated.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have Caleb. Okay. Cup hey, yeah. If one hand's with tower and the interior of the cup was tame, if he held it by its silver, place, he need not be concerned that perhaps his hands were rendered tummy by the exterior of the cup. If one was drinking from a cup whose exterior was tummy, he need not be concerned that perhaps the liquid in his mouth was rendered tummy by the exterior of the cup, and then rendered tummy by the interior of the cup. Regarding a kettle that is boiling water, one might be concerned that perhaps liquid left it, touched its exterior, and then returned to its inside. Utensils of Kodesh do not have an exterior and an interior. They do not have a seva, a place, and then we may not invert utensils within other utensils of Kodesh. All utensils are sent to Tumah through thought, but they do not emerge in the Tumah except through a physical change, for an action negates an action or a thought, but a thought negates neither an action nor a thought. Regarding an Imkian sandal and a drawstring purse, Rabbi Yehuda says also a palm strip basket. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says also a ludkin sandal and it has the same floor. These are the rendered tameh and rendered tahor without a craftsman. Yosi says, but not all utensils rendered tameh are rendered the tahor without a craftsman. Rather, these utensils, even if they're undone, are tameh for a layman to able to repair them. They only stated the other law with regard to a palm strip basket for even a craftsman is not able to repair. Okay. One more.
Shavuos.
One more.
Shavuos. No, no,
Josh,
no, no, no. We're on Shavuos now.
Josh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Gimel Zion. I swear that I will not eat this loaf. I swear that I will not eat it. I swear that I will not eat it. And he ate it. He is liable only once. This is the oath of utterance for which one is liable for its willful transgression to a penalty of lashes and for its inadvertent transgression to a variable sin offering. For a vain oath, one is liable for its willful transgression to a penalty of lashes and for inadvertent transgression, one is example. If I can't get this page right. And what is a vain oath? One who swears to contradict what is known to man. For example, if he said concerning a pillar of stone that it is of gold, concerning a man that he is a woman, or concerning a woman that she is a man, one who swears concerning something that is impossible. For example, if I did not see a camel flying through the air, or if I did not see a snake like the beam of an olive press, or one who said to a witness, come and testify for me, and they reply, we swear that we will not testify for you. One who swears to annul a mitzvah, for example, not to make a sukkah, not to take a lulav, and not to put on tefillin. These are the vain oaths for which one is liable to the penalty of lashes for the willful transgression, and for those in verdant transgression one is exempt. I swear that I will eat the slope. I swear that I will not eat it. The first is an oath of utterance, and the second is a vain oath. If he eats it, he transgresses only the prohibition against a vain oath. If he does not eat, he transgresses an oath of utterance as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's
I
it.
got you on time. Okay.
Have a wonderful Shabbos
Great Shabbos. Enjoy it. Don't forget Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat.
on Monday.
Sunday night, right? Sunday night,
It's
Monday.
not Monday, yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And it's Shabbos Shira.
That too.
That's okay. Big Shabbos. Okay. Be well.
Right.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.